It's exactly 20 minutes to midday. You're listening to Premier Christian Radio, Woman to Woman, the show for Christian women. And all this week we're discussing our relationship with our bodies as Christian women. And Premier's Lisa Mannering has been chatting to Penny Avis and Joanna Berry, the co-authors of Nevermind the Botox series, about the growing industry of cosmetic surgery. So let's return to them now.
Why do you think that women hate their bodies so much then?
I think it's been talked about a lot. A large part does come into the way women are portrayed in the media. I went on a course about raising young girls, and they put in front of us a sample of girls' magazines aimed at teenagers, and just asked us to look through and be really aware of what was in those magazines, because it's not magazines we would read. It wasn't sort of Cosmopolitan or something like that. They were young teenage magazines, and when you really look at it, there are no healthy role models in a lot of those things that they're reading or seeing on television, it becomes quite hard for women, I think, when the role models that are being pushed and what they see everywhere are only judged or only evaluated on how well they look. I think more needs to be done. I think a lot of things about marking photographs as to when they are airbrushed. Mm-hmm. So it is, like they are starting to talk about a standard, so you can see where a photo has been airbrushed back from what it would be a start. But a lot of it is about media. There's a lot of other reasons as well, I think. I don't know, Jo, if you've got any thoughts.
No, I agree entirely with what Penny just said. I think a lot of it does come from the media, but equally, I think as a society we have to take some responsibility for it, because there's an argument that the media reflects the culture, or I don't know what comes first, the chicken or the egg, but I do think that media does reflect what people want to read to an extent, and I do think that we are a very lookist society, and I think that is part of the whole melting pot, really, in connection with what's being fed back to us through the media. And I think young girls in particular are it's a very vulnerable time of their life, and as Penny said, if they're getting these images thrust at them in the media and on the television, I think it's bound to have an effect on their psyche and their approach to their looks.
I often wonder, actually, looking back, even just a few hundred years ago, that perhaps women are predisposed to feeling conscious about their appearance, where men's power resides in money, whereas women's do in their appearance, and whether it would always be here for the media or not the media. But I read an interesting article about Barbie, the whole Barbie syndrome, Barbie being blamed for women hating their bodies. And apparently, I was reading that 3 British psychologists studied the effect of Barbie dolls on 5 to 8-year-olds, and the girls who played with the dolls became more dissatisfied with their bodies and said they wanted to be thinner than the girls that didn't play with that. Do you think that perhaps even the dolls that we play with as a child have an effect on us?
I'm sure they do, actually. I mean, Barbie was just the start of it. If you look at a lot of the dolls now as well, like the Bratz dolls and those sort of things, the clothes they wear, the things they do. I mean, there was a study on Barbie that if you made Barbie into a real person, she'd fall over forwards because her body's not actually in proportion. And so her legs and feet are too thin and her top half is too hard. You made her real, she'd just fall straight over.
I think her waist isn't like 36% smaller than that of an anorexic woman as well.
Yeah, so that certainly must have a part to play. And as we were talking about sort of before we came on air, there's a lady who calls herself the Human Barbie, who has had £500,000 worth of cosmetic surgery, or maybe it's $500,000, I forget, but either of them are ridiculous.
I guess it's addictive, isn't it? Once you start something, perhaps you'll end up like look at Dolly Parton and all the work that she's done, or Sylvester Stallone's mother. All the work that they have done, and you just think, when do you stop?
Yeah, and that is an issue for surgeons. I know when Jo was speaking to some surgeons as research for one of the books for Stella, the cosmetic surgeon, you came across some of that, didn't you, Jo?
I did, and and the responsible surgeons, have people coming in who clearly have. It's more of a psychological issue than a physical issue, and the responsible surgeons will refer those kind of patients to clinical psychologists, but there are other surgeons out there who will, let them have whatever they want, frankly, and will give them all these procedures when actually the issue is not a physical one.
Do you think that this current breast implant scandal will make people think twice before having plastic surgery?
I think it will, because it was an issue for mainstream surgeries. This wasn't something that happened because a lot of people went to backstreet clinics and, travelled abroad or those sorts of things. A lot of the mainstream clinics were offering these implants, and so people who will argue that they made, good decisions, did the research, went to somewhere reputable, still ended up with a problem. So it just shows that, the best research in the world doesn't necessarily protect you. There perhaps was an issue, although the data is very difficult to find, and the government have been saying that the clinics haven't been providing them with good data, on what sales advice people were given, and the implants that have got the issue were cheaper. And so, you don't know how many people were offered two options and chose a cheaper option. Or that was the only option they were given, and they had no idea whether it was going to be a good implant or a bad implant. They just trusted the surgeon. So I think it's very worrying for people who said, they went somewhere sensible, they just got given bad advice. Obviously the industry moves on in leaps and bounds every 10 years, so who knows what in 10 years' time, you might be able to have instead. So I think it would definitely come. The other thing we found in our research as well is that there's an awful lot of things most people can do to make themselves feel better about themselves before they get to the cosmetic surgery point. It's not a quick fix. People see it's a quick fix, but actually it isn't.
And because you've never had it yourself, and you're a regular runner, aren't you? And
I am.
That's how you keep fit, that's how you keep healthy, and that's how you maintain a nice, slim, very slim shape. So I guess coming on to that, what needs to be done, do you think, to actually help promote healthy sort of body image in women? Do you think that we need to ram home that you can actually get a nicer shape by purely just exercise and diet?
Yeah, I think we're pretty simple folk, and I say to my children and that sort of thing, eat less, move more. That's all she wrote. I mean, that's sort of all there is in the equation. It's just, for most people, if they want to be more healthy, it's just to eat less and to move more. If you keep that in your head, it's not a very, dieting, the Apple diet, the Atkins diet, the Cambridge diet, all those things are just a method to eat less. I think if people could keep it really simple and not overcomplicate things by saying to people, you've got to eat nuts, and you've got to have this, and you've got to do this in your diet, just eat food that's as closest to the way it was naturally made. That's always the way it was naturally. That's always more healthy. So that just simple ideas of doing something like that would mean you'd eat a chicken rather than a processed chicken. Eat food as close to it was, and then eat less of it.
And what about you, Joanna? How do you keep fit?
I think Penny and I have a very similar philosophy, really. I also run, and I do sort of runs for charity every year. I try and eat healthily, as Penny just described, and obviously have the same philosophy towards my children's diet, which is extremely important. But in terms of other sort of physical aspects about making yourself, look and feel as good as you can, I think before resorting to surgery, there's so much more you can do. A good haircut can make someone look 10 years younger. Look after your skin. Wear sunblock. That's the most aging thing you can do is to put your face in the sun. And I guess we've all done it in the past, but we know now that that's not good for us. And I think looking after yourself in that way, you don't need to be trotting off and having fillers and Botox in your 30s, as some women are now.
Just before you go, just tell us briefly about your TV series. When do we expect to see that on television?
Well, it's not the quickest process. The 4 books are actually still being published. So the second book, Never Mind the Botox, Rachel, is out this week, and there's actually 2 more coming out later this year. And so the series will probably be published before the TV show is ready, and we're still in the very early development phase. We only signed the deal with Future Films, a joint venture agreement with them, in July of this year, of 2011, and it's probably, unfortunately, a couple of years to get through the development. There's a lot of hurdles along the way. But it's been described as a UK version of Sex and the City. It's sort of a really fun drama about young working women just trying to do their best, have a good time at their jobs, and it should be good. We're excited about it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that we'll hear a lot about you again in the future, and your name and lights and everything else. But thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Penny Avis and Joanna Berry.
Thank you so much to Lisa Mannering for chatting to those 2 ladies. Yes, some names to watch.